Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Practice Pulse podcast. I am your host, Dr. Aditi Agarwal, and I have the pleasure of having with me today Ms. Jenna Taft. Hi, Jenna. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. Jenna, is the senior counsel at Dykema, which is an amazing resource. Going to talk about legal implications in healthcare. She has been a seasoned attorney for a long time and a compliance advisor with a deep expertise in the dental space. And she has an extensive experience in medical as well as hospital systems and national DSOs. So, welcome, Jenna. I'm
Yep.
so excited to talk to you today.
Me too. This is the kind of stuff that makes being a lawyer a little bit exciting. This regulation around AI, it's changing so quickly and it's very difficult to keep up with, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive right into it. I mean, AI is the big uh, talk, big thing, big next enchilada out there. And, everybody's trying to, it's almost like we're back at COVID times and we are trying to figure out what PPE would be the right PPE to use. And there is just so much information out there, and that me as a clinician, as a dentist, it's really hard for me to separate the useful stuff from all the extra stuff. Oh my gosh.
So much. I mean, I agree with you. It's like a constantly changing, rapidly evolving situation. And I've actually even seen some recommendations. We'll get into some of this, but you know how you do a policy and procedure and you'll say like, update this annually or biannually.
Mhm.
I'd with AI regulations, you've really got to do it more often. And it's not feasible to do it too often, but I've even seen some suggestions out there for like every 2 weeks.
Yes, yes, I've been hearing that the people are saying that you need to now update every 2 weeks. And on the tech side of the world, they're saying every 12 hours. And I was like, holy moly, that's insane.
It is difficult to figure out like, what's going to be the new norm. And I don't think this is a moment. Most experts don't think this is a moment. This is going to continue to evolve pretty quickly, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So tell me what you are seeing currently. What trends are you seeing in AI, in dentistry? And what is really standing out? What should we look at as practicing dentists?
So many things to talk about. So I think the biggest thing that you're going to hear about and that you kind of alluded to is this kind of vendor race. So vendors are coming out with AI based products, AI enhanced products at a really astounding rate, right? And so I don't know how, as a clinician, you would choose amongst so many options. It's kind of like I don't go to the grocery store anymore. I order on Instacart because I can't walk the aisles out. I would like buy, everything. So one of the recommendations that I make is this kind of pilot situation. Like you should really be trying out some of these products before you commit, right? So pilot before you integrate, and make sure that the vendors have really vetted these products before you sign on to them. So there's a lot of regulation that's kind of in the works.
Mhm.
And just as a general background, and just for everyone to know, so there is no federal regulation on AI yet in the US. There's none of that. There is one clear thing, and that's that the current administration does see this as a race. Like I'm not just talking about healthcare, but the current administration really wants America to be first with AI advancements,
Wow. Okay.
and
So they're putting a lot of resources toward it then.
they are putting a lot of resources toward it. And he likes to be a big winner, so he
Mhm.
wants to win the race. It kind of like matches what vendors are doing, right? I think what they're hearing is like you've got to have the best AI, or your product's gonna be old and not be
Relevant.
relevant anymore. That's right. The last administration was a little more cautious, right? And and kind of rightly so, because when AI was first really coming out mainstream, people were like, what's happening? Are robots going to take over the world? So it was kind of like a caution thing. And now it's like we have a little bit better understanding, but it's still very difficult for, regular people, even lawyers, even dentists, to like understand these large language models.
Yeah.
So you'll hear the term large language model, and really that's just the type of AI that's developing right now is this like large language model. So it is getting better faster than most people expected. And you hear these stories, right? You hear this story like the AI in, some company like wiped out all its data and or it had this big bug or whatever. Well, I think you're hearing about it because it is it's the stories that are few and far between.
Right.
And the AI is fixing itself pretty quickly. So I don't think the big story is going to continue to be the few times that it ruins something. Nonetheless, we've got to check it. So a lot of the recommendations that I'll make and we'll keep talking about is something you're going to hear a lot: human in the loop. And I've even seen it abbreviated HITL. So human in the loop is you have a person kind of checking the output, checking the data, and making sure that the AI is not doing some of these things that you hear about in the news, like biases against minorities in the data and causing these equality problems, really. And when you talk about healthcare, you're really going to want to keep a professional in the loop. It's called human in the loop, but for us, for dental practices and providers, it should really be like a practitioner in the loop or dentist in the loop. You know what I mean? So, or doctor in the loop. So that's going to be a pillar, I would say, of the recommendations.
Interesting. That would be very, very interesting. So how would this even transpire? Like the doctor in the loop would be basically somebody overseeing this or just
yeah, it has not been flushed out, all the different ways it's going to happen. But because it's so much to get our heads around, one thing that I recommended is like, let's not forget everything we learned, right? So if you take it back to the basics, everyone should have a basic compliance program. Everyone should have a compliance officer. Like the OIG, part of the Health and Human Services Department, the Office of the Inspector General puts out recommendations for healthcare practices and dental practices, and they have a set of like a whole step plan for putting in a compliance program, and there's many components to that. So first of all, if you don't have a basic compliance plan, then you 100% need to get in touch with a vendor or an attorney who can help you with that. And there's vendors out there, and obviously someone at my firm can help you, or you can reach out to other resources that you find through friends or through online. But go back to your basic compliance plan. And it includes auditing and monitoring, right? So like when you're doing chart audits and you're doing coding audits, like that is something similar to what you would do for AI, right? So, when it works, see, is it working to the abilities that you want it? And with the vendor products, it's like, patient safety is number one, right? So if you go back to the basics and you keep the patient at the center of all of this and you make sure it's safe. Okay. So it's safe. And then number two is, does it work? Like, does it work better than when you didn't have an AI enhanced product or when you didn't have an AI product? And like, what's the efficacy of that? Right. So is it giving you consistently correct, accurate results? So it's kind of similar to what you would do what you would already do in your auditing and monitoring programs.
Gotcha. Wow, that's so cool. That's so interesting. And that way you are kind of staying compliant in this whole new world of AI while everything else is changing around you. You've got this one place of truth, at least, for the time being.
I know what you've got to do is go back to your basics. So you've got policies and procedures. So you're going to want one for AI. You're going to want a policy and procedure for AI that says we're going to keep a human in the loop. We're going to check this every so often. We're going to make sure it doesn't show bias. We're going to inform the patient. So you're going to see, more informed consents around AI. And that's something you're familiar with as a practitioner, right? Got to have informed consent. So you're going to add that in. The role of the compliance officer. Now, you'll see recommendations that you need an AI officer. Well, you can certainly appoint an AI compliance officer, or you can just use your existing compliance officer if they have expertise in technology, or they can work with your IT department or your IT vendor on it. So it's using a lot of the existing things that you already have in place and working AI into that. I think is going to be kind of like the first step to this, so you don't get overwhelmed with all this newness.
Gotcha. And what are some of the common misconceptions that you're seeing currently when it comes to AI and compliance in dentistry?
Yeah, I think one is what we've been talking about, that you've got to get you've got to start a whole new compliance program around AI. You really can work it into what you have, your risk assessments. Another thing that people don't talk about as much, but a good compliance program has open lines of communication, right? So there's an email address or a phone number, or at least a contact in your organization or at your practice where employees and or patients can complain, right? And you should also have a platform for them to complain about technology that is using AI. I mean, they should be able to say, like, this is not working as good as everyone thinks, or this is the problem I see with it. So I think open lines of communication is one that people need to think about, and educating. I mean, training and education is part of a compliance program too, right?
Right.
So, we do have to educate people on this, and you are going to have to educate your patients to some extent if they're going to provide informed consent. Right. I think there is a little bit of a misconception that it makes mistakes. It does make mistakes, do not get me wrong, but they're going to become smaller and smaller as time goes on. And I think some people think AI is expensive. Experts say no, it's going to get real cheap. As in like the calculator on your phone cheap, or like everyone has Microsoft Word cheap. So it is going to be most likely available to the masses at little to no cost. These AI products are. So I think that's one thing that people don't know. Like, this is going to be widespread.
So it's here to stay. We might as well all understand it and also figure out how to live with it, and then also understand, and this I think is a broader perspective for the teams as well, for the dentists who are, who have been in practice for a very long time, but they need to understand that they still have to train their teams, and that they can't just opt out. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can't really opt out of, because your patients are going to bring it to your office.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, if you're planning on retiring like this year, like 2025, you might could skip out on it. Like in your professional life, you probably still might have to learn to use it in your personal life. But I was speaking with someone about this, and you hear people talk about the loss of jobs, or AI replacing humans. I subscribe to the notion that it's not going to replace workers and humans. It is going to replace people in the workforce that don't learn to use it. Not everyone, but it certainly is going to reduce some subset of the professional population that isn't able to use it well and use it to their advantage, because it already is and will continue to provide a lot of efficiencies. And yeah, practitioners, one thing that happens today, I've heard this from a couple of dentists, is that people get second opinions, right? So they'll go to one dentist and they'll say, hey, this dentist told me I had 2 cavities. And they'll go to another dentist and say, hey, this dentist told me I had 10 cavities. And so there is a little bit of distrust sometimes with that. And we don't want distrust with AI, right?
Right.
So that's why we want to explain to them, like, hey, this is what I see with my eyes. This is what the technology tells me. And so this is what I'm going to recommend. So I think people understand that better than two just like different answers, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's kind of like showing your work on, like, this is what I saw, but then I had an enhanced picture with AI that showed me this, and this one might not be that bad right now, so we don't need to treat it, but I am going to recommend treating, X, Y, and Z.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, the interesting things with the agentic agents coming on for answering phone calls, and more practices wanting to, embrace that. And there have been so many questions. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So let me bring this up. If you're a DSO that is in multiple states, this is going to be harder, right? Because right now their state laws govern these things. I mean, just like the wiretapping, there's a federal wiretap act, which doesn't apply to everything, but you hear people talk about recording phone calls. And most states are a one-party consent state, which means like one person on the call can decide to record it or not. But that's if like you and I are just talking and one of us records it. If a third party records it, that is a different set of facts. And in a few states, I think it's like 5 or 6 states in the country, all parties on the call have to consent for one of them to record it. So I say all this to say that it's not a straightforward answer, and you should most likely be getting consent up front and at least advising your callers that their call is being recorded for training purposes or quality assurance purposes when you use any of those vendors. And while we're on the topic of training, you may have heard these AI models that use data to train themselves, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard that term? Like, oh, where they're using this information, this data to train the AI model. So when you're dealing with PHI in a healthcare setting, protected health information, you do not want your vendors using any of that information to help train its AI. So you're going to want to make sure that these vendor contracts say that your information is not going to be used for anything besides, your quality assurance, and that people who don't need access to it don't have access to it, or that the data is aggregated, like, that it's not it's not PII, personally identifiable information. So my takeaway for everyone for this is that your vendor contracts are not going to endure. Like your vendor contract from 2005 is not going to be compliant now. They need to be looking at these things and updating them because the technology has changed.
Gotcha. So definitely have to go in and check everything and stay up to date and, manage your staff. There's a lot to do with this AI.
There's a lot to do. I mean, some of the states are stricter than others, but some of the privacy laws that have been passed recently, and it's going to continue to be that you should be keeping track of where people's data is going. And I think future generations may be more discerning than we were with their data. So you're going to have opt-outs. You're going to have to only keep people's information for the days of the days of keeping information for a really long time for marketing purposes without getting consent. Those days are gone.
Wow, that's a big shift.
I mean, I've heard about people keeping information in their systems, companies or dental companies, healthcare companies who've been around a long time, and they've got data from patients from like over a decade ago. Well, my advice is to not keep that information, because if it's compromised, that's a lot more information than you want to report a HIPAA breach on, or that's a big fine if you're not doing your due diligence. So
Yeah, that's a lot.
You've got to do your due diligence on this stuff. And doing it up front is a lot easier than re-engineering it backwards.
Yeah. Now, is there, for these kind of things, would there be like checklists or something that a dentist can find? Do you know? Or like they need to do these things. We're talking about it. We know that it needs to get done. But, a
We can
dentist
absolutely
are forgetful.
yeah, and it's changing, right? You also you almost need a Google Doc checklist like that that automatically updates. Yes, we can definitely produce a checklist that's like tailored towards the provider and kind of what they have going on. So I think that's actually a great idea. Having a checklist is really important. And with I think a time's going to come where all vendors, like the majority of vendors, are going to use AI in some form.
Right.
And so you're probably going to need to do the checklist for everybody.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just thinking ahead that I'm like, ooh, wouldn't it be nice to have a checklist?
I think checklist is a great idea. Risk assessments are a great idea.
Yep.
Let me see if I can think of your insurance. Let me tell everybody about insurance.
Yes, please do.
Insurance is super important. I don't sell it, but I know some people that do if you need it. And brokers and underwriters, I should say, carriers are going to start including things in their requirements that you have a policy and procedure about AI, and that you've got a human in the loop, and that you're checking it. So you definitely want to make sure your insurance policies are up to date, just in general. I'm talking about when I say insurance, a lot of practitioners think about med mal. They think about professional liability insurance. I'm talking about your corporate portfolio of like general liability, property insurance, cybersecurity. You have to keep all these things up to date. And I know it is very daunting at renewal time. They ask you a lot of questions, but if you don't answer them correctly, it could invalidate your policies. So that's very important to do and to keep up with. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. I'm very passionate about insurance. I maybe should sell it, but the professional liability insurance that you offer, or that you have coverage of your entities or your practices, the dentist policies really should be naming the practices as an additional insured on there. So if they're on your platform, they probably are covered, but the DSO should be named on these policies. The practices should be named because, as I was taught in law school, sue everyone for everything and defend on all grounds. So they're going to sue everyone for everything. And I just mean the entities. So yes, you can get out. And I know some of you are thinking, well, you can get out of that. Well, absolutely. A very good lawyer can get you out, but a very good lawyer is not free. Right. So you're going to want to have coverage for that too.
Oh boy. We seriously need a checklist, Jenna.
We seriously need a checklist. I will come up with an AI implementation checklist that people can use. I think that's actually a great idea, because the big regulator, I usually start off talking about this, but in some ways we skipped it. The FDA is really at the head of this right now. Okay, so the FDA, they regulate medical devices.
Yep.
And they are going to do the same for AI products. So for healthcare. So, when you talk about some of the first AI products that came out, they've gotten FDA clearance, and most of these vendors are either going to have pre-market approval. They're going to have some touch with the FDA. So that's something to look out for.
Yeah.
And
so are the ones, sorry to interrupt, but are the ones that have, when the vendors that have cleared and have got FDA approval, you would say that those are, people are looking to buying or incorporating some of these softwares into their daily practice. Those are the ones that they can kind of, eyes wide open, get in with, or
certainly. I would say it's certainly the indication of a sophisticated product or a sophisticated vendor who is making an effort or has jumped through, the regulatory hoops so far. So I think that is a 3/4 of the way there. situation, and then seeing if it works for you, and seeing how good it is. But yeah, I think it's kind of like other products that you use, and you get a sense of comfort when they're FDA approved. So I think it's very helpful indication.
Okay, that's good to know. And when you're advising clients when using AI tools in their workflow, right? Whether it's for diagnosis, communication, all of that, how can they ensure like this compliance piece doesn't get left behind besides getting checklists? Is there any other way for those people who are not checklist
Well,
people?
yes. So, I don't want to get in trouble because I love all the vendors, but don't let them rush you. Do not, I always think about it as a car salesman, or, when they say going, gone, that is a red flag for me. So don't let them rush your decision-making. You're the customer. And, if they say, we want you to sign by Friday, we have this great deal, whatever, in my mind, it's, I gotta get my compliance team on board. I gotta get my finance team on board. I gotta call my lawyer. Not always, but I would definitely get compliance in the loop. Let's get compliance in the loop. I think that will be a huge part of it, because if you don't have a checklist, I bet compliance does have some checklists for similar situations that will be very helpful. And I still think the piloting and taking a pause before you integrate and making sure you as the practitioner really understand it. Because if you don't understand how it works, it's going to be difficult to explain to patients, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to pause really quick and explain one more little concept. So they talk about the black box problem, black box challenges. So have you heard that term? So it's a term that they use for, it's hard to explain, and it kind of means that it's hard to explain. So it's difficult to show your math on some of these AI technologies. And the reason they call it the black box problem is because you can see what data goes into the box, right? Okay, you're like, okay, here's the data. It's Jenna Taft, and she's this old, and she's got this problem, and that's what goes in the box, okay? And then you can see what comes out of the box. Like, this is what we should do for her. This is the treatment plan. We don't know, like, experts do not know exactly how AI algorithms come up with these answers sometimes, right?
Wow.
That is the black box problem. So it's sometimes difficult to explain when we don't know how they came up with the answer. It's not like you can't show your work like 2 + 2 = 4. Like we started with 2 and 2, we got 4, but we don't know, did they add them?
Yeah.
It's so that's the black box problem. And that's why you've really got to understand what the vendor's doing or what the product's doing so that you can explain it to the patient.
That's interesting. That is so interesting that there is a black box problem with AI products right now.
It's a lack of transparency. Like, they sometimes don't understand, there's products, you've heard of Chat GPT, right? You can, if you haven't, you can download the app. There's a paid version. There's a unpaid version. It's kind of like the iPhone, where it doesn't make sense. Like, it's like 03 came out, and then 04, and then there'll be a light version, and you're kind of wondering which is better. Is Max better? You're not sure. Like, was there a 13 and there's a 15? It doesn't. Scientists aren't so good with the names. So it's confusing. And then, Microsoft has a product. A lot of different companies have a search product. Google has a product. And when you line them all up together, you get different results. You can ask the same question and it gets you different results. And experts will say, like, oh, Claude is good at this and Protégé is good at this, but they sometimes don't know why.
It's interesting. Wow.
It's very
so cool.
Well, I want to
cool both.
Oh, it's so exciting. I could come on next week and probably have updates, but I did want to say that it as difficult as it is to keep up with, I appreciate you doing a podcast and focusing on it. That's one of the ways I keep up with the advancements is through podcasts. So there's so many podcasts that are very informative, and who has time to listen to them all? So I use a product called Concise Cast that I put in like 10 podcasts, and it gives me summaries or give me short listens that tell me the high points. So that's one way you can stay up. There's a podcast about AI policy you can listen to. Really,
wow. What is the name again of the? What do you use? Concise Cast, you said?
Yeah, it's called concisecast.com, like CONCISE cast.com. And you can put in like 5 or 10 podcasts and it will give you a synopsis each day.
Oh, wow.
So and so on the weekends and stuff, I'll just roll through them and listen. It will boil down like hours of podcasts to like 20 or 30-minute episodes.
That's amazing. And that could give you a lot of information in a short amount of time, which is great because, these days time is money.
Like the DSO industry and the healthcare industry does a lot of great podcasts that help you keep up with what's going on as well. So I really enjoy keeping up. A lot of my clients have podcasts, and so I like to keep up with who they're talking to and what's going on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is amazing. I mean, so we have definitely covered a lot about what all is going on in AI today, which may not be the same tomorrow.
I know. I hope I don't have to play myself back and find out I had a wrong prediction, but I don't think so.
No, I'm sure you're right. You're probably seeing this a lot more than most dentists are, because we're, also focused on serving our patients in a different capacity, whereas this is kind of your realm of work, and it's affecting the way law or legal things are showing up. And I think definitely you're at the forefront of change, specifically with AI right now. So I mean, it's cool, it's scary, but it's amazing, and it's great for us as practitioners to know that we have people like you who are doing this in the background, or foreground, whoever, whichever position you want to play. But you're doing this still trying to make sure that, ultimately we are both trying to achieve the same goal, is protecting the patient.
That's right.
And so, I'm really grateful that you have a spot, you're doing what you're doing, and really helping us, Dennis, with what we need to do to keep going in a more compliant manner. And I'm sure this is going to change. And change is hard. Change is hard for everybody. I understand that as a practitioner. But in today's day and age, I think we kind of just have to swallow that really big change pill and deal.
The faster you get on the train, the better. Really, the faster you embrace, the better. And one of the things I say about my job is I'm here to keep you out of trouble. So that's all I want. I want to keep I want to keep doctors, dentists, DSOs. I want to keep you out of trouble. So I really do that like in a full service manner. Like, whether you're in growth mode, whether you're focused on getting your house in order, that is one thing I would say to do before this gets even bigger. Get your house in order, make sure you've got a compliance program, a good insurance program, and a good infrastructure in place, because it's not going to be a time. This is not going to slow down. There's not going to be a break where you can, figure this all out. So anytime that you can pause and get your house in order is going to be helpful.
Awesome. And Jenna, if our listeners want to reach out to you, how do they do that? How can they do that?
Well, you can easily find me on the Dykema website. The law firm is Dykema Gossett, and it's referred to by many as just Dykema. It's Dykema. And my email address is just jtaft@dykema.com. I always say Taft like the president. Some people remember Taft the president, some people don't, but it's jtaft@dykema.com. And I love to hear from you. Also, I like to put people in touch with other, there are a lot of vendors that help with compliance. And so I'm happy to put you in touch with one of those or one of our other partners that we see doing good work. So, and always happy to chat. I hope I see a lot of people in Denver this week. I'm going to Denver for the big Dykema conference.
I know it's coming up August 7th to the 9th, is it?
Or 6 to 8, I think. But yes,
That's right.
we'll be there.
Close enough. It was
If
close.
you're not going this year, please come next year. It's in July. It's great to see everybody in person. We have actually a Women in DSO is doing a AI master class this year, and I'm sure they'll have expound on it next year. But yeah, it's really interesting stuff. So
That's so cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you on the road, Jenna. It was really awesome to chat with you and really learn some pearls from you today. I know as a practitioner and as a dental practice owner, I totally understand, and I'm really thankful that somebody is helping us figure this crap out.
it's hard. Us too. I'm glad that there's a new problem for us old lawyers. So
That's true. Well, thank you very much, Jenna.
you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.